A couple things. I think maybe let's focus in on Pennsylvania because there's been a lot of discussion about the trajectory that we seem to be on here with the outstanding mail ballots in Pennsylvania. We've talked about a lot about Biden is winning those overwhelmingly. He's building a lead with every new batch that comes in. There are still quite a few outstanding ballots. We expect this to keep going up. And yet, where is the uncertainty here? Is there a possibility of something unforeseen happening? Let me explain why there is still, I think, a little bit of uncertainty when it comes to calling Pennsylvania, despite what seems, to be a very clear trajectory here. If you'll indulge me, this might take a minute, but I think it might be worth it.
I would love to, yes.
Okay. Let's take this in two categories here. So first of all, there are the outstanding mail ballots. We've been talking about this quite a bit. In Philadelphia, we think there are about 23,000 outstanding mail ballots in Philadelphia. In Allegheny County, Pittsburgh, there are about 35,000 uncounted mail-in ballots. Let's see here. In Bucks County, we think this is right up here. We think there are about 4,000. These are the big spots for it. But overall, you're still looking at something in the neighborhood of 100,000 uncounted mail ballots. Okay, about 100,000 uncounted mail ballots, according to the state right now. Now we look at that and we say, well, Biden's winning the mail ballots at a 75% rate. Should net about 50,000 votes from that total. Here's the first piece of complexity. It's far from clear at this point that all 100,000 of those mail ballots, of those uncounted mail ballots, will in fact be counted. One of the things that we're seeing in a lot of these counties that have done and been doing their absentee mail vote counting is they're not getting down to zero. And remember, they're getting these ballots, they're opening them up, they could be challenged. We had that whole conversation about if it's not inside the envelope that's inside the envelope, that can happen here.
Right.
So you say there's 100,000 that are uncounted, that doesn't mean that's going to be what actually goes into the final vote total here.
Right.
There's uncertainty there. And if that came down 25,000, 30,000, now this is just, to give you a sense of it, then Biden's not getting as much out of that as I think people would assume.
Right.
That's one possibility here, okay? So there's no dispute right now that the mail ballots that are outstanding that do get counted will overwhelmingly favor Biden. And that with each update there, this lead he's accumulating from that will go up. There's a question of how much that lead will go up because we're not entirely sure how many of these actually get counted. Okay?
Yes.
That's the first piece of it. Now, the second piece of it is this. There are also roughly 100,000 provisional ballots in Pennsylvania. That's an unusually high number of provisional ballots for the state. The number, I think, was about 4 times less than that in the 2016 campaign. There are about 100,000 of them. Why are there so many provisional ballots this year? I think one possibility here is that because of the new mail voting system that Pennsylvania has, if you requested a mail-in ballot and it was sent to your home, you've got the mail-in ballot, and you decide on Election Day, I'm going to bring that ballot in myself.
Yep.
And you bring it down, and you don't have the ballot, the envelope, and the inner envelope. That's a spoiled ballot. They give you a new one, and you vote provisionally.
Correct.
Also, if you just decided, if you're home and you have a ballot, and you just decided to go in and vote, and you didn't bring the ballot at all, provisional ballot. There are a lot more provisional ballots than normal in some Republican areas. And the provisional ballots have been counted in a few Republican-friendly places. And unlike the mail ballots that we've been seeing come in those places, they're not favoring Biden. They're favoring Trump. So we don't have a lot of information on this yet because we don't have a lot of these counts yet. But it just raises a possibility, and it raises a question. we're used to thinking of the provisional ballots in any given state in a sort of normal pre-COVID election. We say provisional ballots is almost always a Democratic-leaning vote. So you see a provisional ballot here, if that's your assumption, we need some evidence that that's the case here. Or, you know, we know that Republican and Trump-friendly voters were much more likely to vote same day than Democrats. That's established. Were these Trump voters who had requested mail-in ballots at one point, but then maybe because of the politicization of mail ballots, so I'm not voting mail, I'm going in person? That would be a provisional ballot if they went and did that. So we need to see, are we sure that this is going to look like provisional ballots in the past, or is it possible it's going to look very different? And so that combination of, does Biden not get what we're assuming he'd get out of the mail-in ballots that are uncounted, and does the provisional become much more Republican than expected? I'm just saying these are the two things.
Great. That was. Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.